Welcome inside the RX Muscle Studios in New York for another episode of Askdave, better known as #Askdave, brought to you by, as always, by Species Nutrition. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. Glad you can join us on this Tuesday afternoon. Usually we're on at Wednesday, but a lot going on right now, so we had to reschedule for today. But nonetheless, we are glad to have you on. 30-minute question and answer with Dave Palumbo. Anything from diet, training, supplementation, your questions about IFBB pros and the upcoming Olympia. It is hard to believe, Dave, we are just a shade over a month away from being in Vegas for Olympia weekend.
Yeah, it's coming up real quick, and it feels like we just got done with the Arnold Classic, and I can't believe the Olympia is here. Before we know it, it'll be the end of the year, and we'll be talking about the Arnold for next year. So time flies, and I'm sure Phil Heath is getting excited about trying to defend the title again. And there's a lot of hungry guys out there that want to knock him off that throne.
So we're going to have a bit of a change for this episode. Usually for the best overall question, we give away a Species gym bag as well as Nitralized pre-workout. So today, we are going to be giving away for the best overall question, Macadamia Nut Oil. Now, this is a product many of you have asked us about. You enjoy cooking. You want to live a healthy lifestyle, obviously. Dave, why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about your Macadamia Nut Oil?
Well, everyone knows I love macadamia nut oil. Probably, I was a big extra virgin olive oil fan for many, many, many years. Obviously, for the many health benefits it has, the high monounsaturated fats in there, the anti-inflammation effect it has in the body. And then, I found out something that I really didn't know, that you really can't cook with olive oil, because when you cook with it, it burns. And it ruins all the health benefits. And it doesn't really taste that great in anything but salads. Like when you put it on like chicken, it kind of has a little bit of a little bite to it. So I was introduced to macadamia nut oil and I found out that it had higher monounsaturated fats. It has a high smoke point. You can cook with it. It doesn't oxidize when exposed to light. It's like the ideal, oil. And in addition to that, it tastes like butter. So, I mean, what better for a bodybuilder than something that tastes like butter that's healthy? And it was hard to go find this stuff. No one was selling it. So I scoured the world, essentially, and I found it in South Africa. And we have the only, that I'm aware of, brand of macadamia nut oil that comes from the soils of South Africa, which have the richest soils in the world. So I'm truly, really proud of this product. And I know that a lot of bodybuilders out there use it and love it. So I want to give it to a lucky person who has, what are we going to do? Best question?
The best overall question,
right.
yes.
Let's see. You're wasting these people time. People tell me the little chit chat in the beginning, Sid, that pisses them off because then we don't get to answer as many questions. So,
well then, let's get right to them. We will start on the Muscle Central forum on rxmuscle.com and go to K-Swizzle. Dave, I'd like to know why Chris Aceto thinks it was do or die for Justin Compton at the Arnold Classic. Second, I'd like to know what he thinks of my theory as to why he was let go from MD. For example, that MD got fed up with his back-to-back refusals to compete at the Olympia.
Well, I think Evan Centopani turned the Olympia down 2 times. They didn't let him go right away. So I don't know if that's a valid theory. But I think Aceto felt that it was do or die for Compton because, there was so much pressure on this guy to be the next big thing that really a third place, while it was good, it wasn't enough. And people felt that he should have won the show convincingly because he was beaten by 2 guys that, while veterans and good, aren't past their prime, so to speak. But although Dexter Jackson, to me, is not really past his prime. But the point is that Compton should have won, according to Aceto. I don't necessarily know if that's the case. I thought I could have made a case for Compton winning that show. Whether Compton decides to sit out the Olympia or not, that's his personal decision. If he doesn't want to do it, then he shouldn't have to do it. The guy obviously wants to make improvements and come back to the Arnold Classic next year and win the show. It's nothing against the Olympia people. It's nothing against Steve Bleckman. It's nothing against his supplement sponsor, Hani Ram. But I think he just felt that strategic-wise, given the fact that he's still only 27 years old, there's no reason to rush into the Olympia. And when he finally does go to the Olympia, probably next year, he'll have a good shot at placing top 3. That's his mindset. Whether he got let go from MD for that or not I don't know. I would bet if I was in a room with Steve Bleckman, now Steve would tell me that he probably wasn't doing enough social media-wise. He wasn't doing enough to outside of the sport to make it worth whatever they were paying him, I would assume. But once again, it goes back to the why cut back Bleckman, rhetoric campaign where he's saying he's not cutting back, but he is. So I think Compton just fell victim to that.
Let's go to Big Al Williams, popular poster on the Muscle Central forum. Dave, I hate your show so much I'd rather listen to Steve Bleckman sing the national anthem while taking a 12-hour law enforcement course with no bathroom breaks from George Farah. Question. In the combination of clenbuterol and cytomel for contest prep, what dosage for each and duration do you recommend?
As far as cytomel goes, I usually start guys off at about 25 micrograms per day, and I usually increase that, if necessary, every 2 to 3 weeks. And I only increase it by about 12.5 micrograms at a time. So you want to dose it very slowly. You don't want to ramp it up too fast, and you don't want to increase it too quickly over. You want to spread it out. So if you're going to use it for 12 weeks or so, you might get up to 75 micrograms. The max that I usually would ever give to someone would be 100 micrograms a day, and that's usually, that could fall into the replacement dose, range. As far as, do you need to go up that high? No, not everyone does. Some people could take 25 and they get in shape with it. So it's an individual, it's on an individual basis. It needs to be assessed.
Once again, a reminder, the best I hate or the best I would rather be doing this than watching the show gets Nitralized pre-workout by Species Nutrition. Let's go to the Mr. BSU. Dave, can you please explain how the ownership and management of the IFBB/NPC work? I'm of the understanding Steve Weinberger owns the IFBB. Please explain.
No, this is the way it works. The IFBB in the United States or in the world is the pro league, the professional league, and the NPC in the United States is the amateur league. The amateur league is owned by Jim Manion. He is the owner and the president of the NPC. He started it, and that's his privately owned corporation, so to speak. The IFBB Pro League and Amateur League is owned by the Weeders. Now, there's no Weeders. The only Weeder really that's alive right now who's in head of all this would be Eric Weeder, which is Ben Weeder's son. So he owns the IFBB Pro League. Jim Manion is president of the IFBB. So he doesn't own it, but he's president. That means he presides over the thing, and he makes all the judging decisions and who's going to judge and who's. Steve Weinberg is one of the best head judges out there. He doesn't own anything, but he obviously, you'll see him at a lot of shows, and he's pretty much the head guy right underneath Jim Manion. So that's the corporate structure there. AMI owns, which is American Media, owns the Weeder magazines, which is Flex and Muscle and Fitness, and they own 50% of the Olympia. Eric Weeder owns 50% of the Olympia. So that's the dynamic.
Let's go to Big Mike Cox. Dave, when carb loading for a show, would it be best to start loading the Wednesday before very slowly or hold off until that Friday?
Everyone's different. I like to carb load my guys for a Saturday morning show. I like to carb load them Thursday and Friday, and then, of course, Saturday morning. That's usually adequate. However, there are guys that got crazy fast metabolisms that take a longer time to load. Those guys I might start all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, all day Friday, or I might do half a day on Wednesday. So it really depends on the person. I think for the majority of people, if you had to make a blanket statement, usually Thursday and Friday is enough. For women, I usually only carb them up on Friday and then Saturday. That's usually adequate. If you overcarb a woman, they just don't look good. They get it ruins their lines, it ruins their femininity, their faces get bloated. So women usually one day is enough. But then again, there's girls that have very good metabolisms. They need more than that. But most of the women that I work with don't need more than one day.
Where you stick with the Muscle Center forum, again, reminder, if you're not already a member, it is free to register. All this content, all the athlete interviews, we are going to be launching a new series next week called RX Muscles March to the Olympia. We're going to have interviews with Sadiq Hadzovic and Juliana Malacarni to start Jeremy Buendia. All that next week, all the banter, all the chatter, all the live updates on the Muscle Central forum. We go to, once again, to the Mr. BSU. Long question here. Why do we as a society fight so hard to keep performance-enhancing medicines held down and out of reach for athletes and humans in general? Substances we use in the bodybuilding world, known for the most part completely safe unless abused. Meds that could add a great deal of positive improvement to most American men and women's lives and a great deal of excitement to our sporting events. Is it that the public has been hit with propaganda from the war on drugs for so long? It would seem in the information age that lies would start to be exposed and truth would start surfacing. I know we've made great strides in the cannabis laws. It's sad to see the witch hunt for medicines we all know and enjoy continue based on fabricated science and drug laws. Do you see this hypocrisy ever changing?
subterfuge. That's what it is. Get the people worried about steroids, they'll forget about the economy. So they'll forget about the war over Afghanistan. It's subterfuge. They're trying to get you distracted from what's really important and make it look like something that's not really important. It should be addressed. Let's face it. How many people what percentage of the population actually take anabolic steroids? Probably less than 1%, I would say. So those people are a negligent. So why are they putting so much effort into that? Because it distracts people from what's really wrong in society. People can be like, oh, those cheaters. And meanwhile, they forget that they can't pay their mortgage, or they can't pay, they're losing their house, they're getting kicked out, they lost their job, and it just distracts people. I think that's what the real reason is. The reason why marijuana is starting to become made legal is because they can make money off of it. They can tax it, and a lot of people use it. If they tax steroids, they wouldn't make any money because there's not enough people who use them. They tax the things that like gasoline, cigarettes, and now marijuana. I think it's a great idea. They say it's the number one cash crop in this country. In other words, it's the most valuable crop that we grow in the United States is marijuana. So might as well sell it and tax it, right? But steroids won't make them any money, so they'll just keep using that as the deflection. We're going after something at least,
Let's go now to our livestream.com questions for our viewers watching directly on the livestream.com video box. We go to Ilson Jr. Dave, what dose of Trenbolone do you like to use?
Well, there's different types of Trenbolone. There's Trenbolone acetate, which is the fast-acting Trenbolone, and then there's Trenbolone enanthate, which used to be called Parabolone years ago, and when it actually came in ampules from France, and that's the longer-acting Trenbolone. Now, to give you an example of what guys did in the 90s, if you were getting ready for a show, there was no Trenbolone acetate really, so people would use Parabolone, and it was 76 milligrams in an ampule. And people would use 2 ampules a week. And if you did that, you were pretty cool. You were lucky to have the stuff. If you were really nuts back then, you did 3 ampules of the stuff. Okay? Nowadays, people would look at you like you were like there was something wrong with, like you were taking M&Ms or something like that. It wasn't doing anything. Nowadays, guys use, I heard of a guy using 1,200 milligrams of Trenbolone acetate a week. Now, Trenbolone acetate is faster. I think it needs to be taken every other day. But, the dosages that most people started with that I used back in the day was like 50 milligrams of the stuff every other day. Nowadays, guys are using 200, 300, 400 milligrams every other day, which is nuts, I think a good dosage is probably 75 to 100 milligrams, every other day, for 8 weeks before a show. That's usually normal dosages. Do guys use more than that? Yeah, but you know what? Trenbolone raises blood pressure tremendously, raises anxiety. It'll make it really tough to sleep at night for you. And it's not something you want to, subject your body to long term, especially at that high a dose.
You're watching Ask Dave on rxmuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. We now go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're following us on Instagram, our handle is official_RxMuscle. And we go to our good friend, Farabi K, who always complains that we never take his questions, so we'll take your question now. Dave, this show sucks so much that Officer Farah needs to shut down the whole studio and cancel the show. My question is, I started my first cycle 11 weeks ago of Echo Boys, Tren, and Sustanon, and the results are 0 till this day. Please tell me why. I am dieting and training really hard. And what is CJC 1295? And I guess this is the second part of the question. What is CJC 1295 peptide and GHRP6 does?
Well, first of all, why you wouldn't get gains from what you were taking? It seemed like you were doing a pretty, nice looking cycle. It could be the stuff is no good. I have a lot of guys, that I've been helping recently, and when they send me their weekly pictures, sometimes I just get to the point where I'm like, you know what? Are you sure what you're taking is good? Because you look natural. You get that deflated look. You don't have any veins. You're not pumped. The person just doesn't look right. And I know what the look is. I can tell when someone's taking a cycle of something. So if you're taking a lot of stuff and you're not getting results, it might not be good, the stuff you're taking. You might want to try a different brand. As far as the CJC and GHRP6 peptides, those are growth hormone releasing peptides. What they do is they stimulate the pituitary gland to produce growth hormone. Now, a lot of people like to use the GHRP6 off season because it makes you hungry too. So it's a good appetite increaser as well as GH releaser. Now, the GHRPs and even CJC is another growth hormone releasing peptide. They stimulate GH, but not a lot, not as much as you would get from saying taking a shot of 2 or 3 IUs of GH. You're not going to get that much from it. So it's kind of like the poor man's GH, I call it. But once again, the GHRP6 is a good product to use if you just have trouble eating, and I have a lot of guys using it off season because of that.
Let's go to MBell971. I hate this show, period. It just sucks. Dave, do you think anyone will overtake Flex Lewis as the 212 Olympia champion? If so, who?
I think that Jose Raymond has a very good chance of knocking him off. I think that Jose is bigger than he's ever been. He's grainy, freaky hard. I've seen some pictures of him he sent to me. I think that Jose is going to really push Flex this year more than any time. And I think if Flex comes in just a little off, I think that he might lose, So I think that this is Flex's very important year for him. He's got to come in at his best. I think when Flex comes in at his best, however, he's very difficult to beat because structurally he's really good and he's got nice muscle bellies. He's a great poser on stage. He knows how to present his strengths and hide his weaknesses. And he is the reigning champ. So if he's at his best, he won't lose. But if he's a little off, I think Jose Raymond will be the guy to knock him off.
Got a good question here from Dr. AbziLool. I hate this show. I'd rather read a medical book, which is written by, quote, Dr. Farah, the big, than watching it. Dave, my question is, you did 3 years of medical school. I would like to know the reasons why you stopped from finishing it.
There were a number of reasons, actually. I got into medicine originally because I was fascinated by how the body worked. I loved how all the systems worked, the physiology, the endocrinology, the pharmacology, how the body responded to drugs. And to me, that was fascinating. And then I got into in your third year, you start working in the hospitals and you start treating people. And I realized that, all doctors do essentially is treat people's symptoms. So you come in with a cold, they give you a decongestant. You come in with a sore throat, they give you an antibiotic. You come in out of your freaking mind, they give you a pill, because you're schizophrenic or you're bipolar. No one treats no one treats the cause of these symptoms. No one works on preventative medicine, keeping the person healthy. And to me, it kind of disillusioned me a little bit. I also hated working in the hospital. I thought it was a waste of time, to be honest with you. I was there for, they'd have you on call, 24 hours every third day. And it didn't feel right. And, when something internally doesn't feel right, if you're in a job right now and you just know it's not right and it doesn't feel right, get the hell out of the job. Find something that you're passionate about, what you love, and do it. And that's what, had been gotten into bodybuilding the couple of years prior to getting into medical school, and I just was starting to do well, and I really was passionate about it. So I said, I'm going to take a year off and give it a chance. I had to go back to bouncing, and I had to work as a personal trainer. So it was a tough decision to make, believe me, and my family wasn't happy, but I said, it doesn't feel right internally, and this does, and I focused on bodybuilding, and look, I found a niche for myself, and I think that's what it's all about. So go with your gut. Don't go with what other people think you should be doing.
Let's go back to our live stream audience and go to Peter Gazda. Dave, what do you think about Juan Morel's cheat day? He is 5 weeks out and still doing those 20,000 kcal cheat days. Is he a freaky genetic? It would give an average person instant diabetes.
I saw Juan yesterday at Bev's gym, Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym, and we were talking about that. I saw him; he was all sweating. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He trains twice a day. I forgot that he comes to the gym twice a day. I said, "Well, what are you doing the second time you come to the gym?" He does cardio. I said, he always does 30 minutes of cardio, and he started doing that in the off season. He told me because it helps him eat more. Because it's hard for him to grow and if you can't eat a lot of food, you're not going to grow. And he does it through his contest diet. Now, he probably doesn't even need to do cardio, but for some reason he likes to do it. He does it, which means he's got to eat even more because it really overstimulates his metabolism. I've seen some of his crazy cheat days. He might have a better metabolism than I do because this kid will eat. I never ate so much junk food in my life. He loves to eat ice cream and pizza and all kinds of crazy stuff. So, look, you know what? When I was working with him for many, many years, right, up to recently, we realized that if we didn't give him the junk food, he didn't look good on stage. He just looked flat, and regular clean carbs just don't fill him up. So, we found out what works for him, and we went with it. If anyone else would have followed up that program, they would look terrible. And so don't look at Juan and say, I could do that too, because no one can do that. He's 1 in a million.
Let's hop back over to the Muscle Central Forum. Good question here by Femme Physique Fan. Dave, I thought After Hours was your all-time low when it came to online media, but this? Way worse. All new low. Nicely done. You had recently made mention about wanting to see more shows with a live pay-per-view webcast format, and that you wanted to see the industry as a whole move in this direction when it came to covering shows. I agree with you completely. In this day and age of webcasting technology, the idea of having to do texted play-by-plays is ridiculous. Wholeheartedly agree. Do you think it could be possible for RX Muscle to team up with a company like I guess is Repitrope Studios, in parentheses, the company with the official contract for the NPC to do the videography for all national NPC shows, and the two of your companies together possibly come up with a site for muscle media modeled after Netflix, where you can pay a certain amount to have access to all the NPC shows they have in their library?
I mean, it would be a smart idea. Obviously, it would be a very good idea. I don't know if in this bodybuilding industry, I find that people don't like to work together. I don't know why they don't like to work together, but they don't like to work together. I will say one thing, and I don't know if it was prophetic on my part or if it was just mere coincidence, but after I mentioned that they should be live streaming all these shows, I noticed that the Golden State this past weekend that Cedric McMillan won was live streamed, and you could have gone on the website, and I think it was $14 or something like that, and paid for it. You can pay for a whole month. The company that's doing it, I believe, is called Glow or Flow Muscle. I know FlowMuscle.com is doing the upcoming Phoenix Rising Women's Bodybuilding World Championships this coming weekend in San Antonio, Texas. So you can go on Flow Muscle, FLO Muscle.com, and you can sign up, and you could actually watch it was now no longer called the Miss Olympia, it's called the Rising Phoenix Show. You can watch that and see who's going to be crowned the greatest women bodybuilder of all time, for the year at least. And there's also a men's event there. So, companies are starting to do this now. And I know this Flow Muscle company is, I think, owned by Glow. It's another, I don't know what the exact LLC is, but they do all the gymnastic events. So I guess bodybuilding promoters are getting hip to this, that this is what the fans want. And I think it could be lucrative. If you try, I don't know if I would charge $15, but you could charge $5, and I bet you a lot of people would sign up for it.
Let's go back to our Instagram questions and go to Benadu14. Hey Dave, this show sucks so much I'd rather pay $1,500 for a press pass to get to listen to Officer Farah tell old cop stories. What are your favorite pre- and post-workout meals on a ketogenic diet?
When I set up a ketogenic diet for someone, like getting ready for a competition or looking to lose weight, I really you don't have to worry about post workout. There's no all the nutrients and all the meals are pretty much equal. What I do myself when I used to follow that type of a diet for any amount of time is pre-workout. I don't like anything heavy in my stomach, so I would never eat like a steak or anything like that. I would try to eat something that digested really easily, like fish. Some vegetables, maybe some olive oil or macadamia nut oil mixed in there, or some nuts. Post-workout, I would also try to eat something that digested relatively easy, because once again, you want to get the nutrients in faster. But once again, spiking insulin is not a premium. It's getting the protein into the muscle so that recovery can occur. Remember, carbs replace glycogen in the muscle. Protein repairs muscle. So even on a ketogenic diet, you're still going to replace and repair muscle at the optimal rates if you eat a nice meal, especially an easily digestible meal. However, you're not going to reglycogenate the muscles, obviously, because you're not loading up with carbs. But that's okay, because you're not using carbs as fuel for your brain. You're using fats as fuel, so it's not as relevant. So once again, on a ketogenic diet, try to eat something that's relatively easily digested pre- and post-workout.
You're watching Askdave on RxMuscle.com. We go back to our Instagram questions and go to BigJ_97. Dear Dave and Sid, this show sucks so much that I would rather be locked up in a room with Big Ramy and inhaling the ungodly smell of his protein farts while he is on a diet with almost non-existent carbs, while at the same time being forced to simultaneously watch a loop video of Steve Bleckman describing Victor Martinez's shredded glutes while being on a Skype call with Officer Farah, who's forcing me to admit that I'm gay.
That's a whole story already. I think we could act that out. We could act that out with what we got over there. I'm not going to talk about it yet. I have a secret surprise for everyone next week. But
my question is, will we ever see the one and only Lee Priest on an RX Muscle show in the future?
Never say never. You never know.
I think that's Dave's way of saying stay tuned, right? Let's go to Mike Mez _. If the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone is what causes acne. How or what can one do to avoid this conversion to take place?
Well, you can use a prescription drug, finasteride, at anywhere from 1 to 2.5 milligrams a day. But more easily, use a good quality salt palmetto that will block the conversion of testosterone to DHT. A lot of bodybuilders now are starting to use Testalize, my testosterone boosting agent that we sell from Species Nutrition. Not necessarily to boost their natural testosterone, although they're doing that too, off cycle, and natural bodybuilders use it year round. But what the advantage of that is that it blocks the conversion of testosterone into estrogen and testosterone into DHT, which is what most people really need. So you could take Testalize 3 pills twice a day and not have to worry about excessive DHT buildup, and you're not going to have to worry about excessive estrogen buildup. So for a guy on cycle, that'll work real well. And then when you're off cycle, it'll act to restore your natural pituitary testicular function.
Let's go to reps4reason_Alex. I hate this show so much that I wish Rich Piana would have a cave match with Dave, Sid, and Johnny Styles because we all know who would win. ... Sid, of course. Smart man. I competed in my first show earlier this year, which was a local natural show, and I was in the men's physique division. It appeared that many people were on gear, even with it being a natural show, due to discussions backstage. Do you think drugs are still an issue in natural shows? I would also like to state I have nothing against them and respect anyone who chooses to compete. With me going forward in competing, I would also like to know if it is a must to survive in the industry.
I don't think there is anything such that we can actually define as a real natural show or a natural bodybuilder, for that matter. Anyone who puts a supplement into their body is not natural, as far as I'm concerned. And let's face it, up until last November, they were selling pro-hormones, which are really just non-classified steroids. So you could theoretically say you're natural because you're using a pro-hormone that's legally purchased from a health nutrition store. So there is no such thing as natural. If you want to be a natural bodybuilder and you have your own set of rules, look, I'm not going to go here, I'm not going to go there, I'm not going to do this, and that considers me natural, then that's fine. You have to do what makes you feel good inside and what you can live with. Okay? If consider yourself a natural lifter and a natural competitor, then that's fine. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing. Don't say, oh, well, I lost to him because he was on stuff. If that's important to you, if winning shows is the most important thing to you, then you might as well go all out and take what you got to take and be your best, But if you want to compete naturally, and I know a lot of bodybuilders that competed naturally over the years, they did it because it was something that was important to them, and they didn't worry about what everyone else was doing around them. And if they did well, then great. If they didn't go blaming other people. And I think that to me shows the true, I guess you could say, mark of a good sportsman.
Let's go to, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name because he specifically says, Sadiq, please spell my name right. So it's ReitepelIja. All right.
Come on, Sid, you can pronounce it.
I'm not even going to try. Dave, what's your opinion on nattyornot.com guy? He makes me laugh so hard because he thinks bodybuilding just stay in bed, do PEDs, and go partying and have an easy diet and no work ethic at all.
I always challenge these people that think that if you take steroids, you're going to look like Ronnie Coleman. I said, try it. There's so many guys in the gym that you don't even know that are on gear, probably a lot of gear, and look worse than any natural bodybuilder you've ever seen. Because they don't realize that you have to train hard and you have to eat right for the steroids to work. Okay? You don't just take a shot and get huge. And it doesn't, even if you do eat right and you do train right, it's going to take years and years before you're going to look ideally how you'd like to see yourself in your head. And even then, it's not guaranteed. So, people who think that, steroids build great physiques are right in one sense, but they're wrong in another sense because there's a lot more that goes into it.
Before we take our last question, a programming note: in about, say, 20 minutes, we're going to have our new show live with. We're going to be bringing on IFBB pro Debbie Lashevsky, who is going to be competing this weekend at the IFBB Wings of Strength Miss Rising Phoenix World Championship. So it's obviously a big show. Dave and I spoke about it a couple of episodes ago. Dave, I believe the winner, if I'm not mistaken, is getting a prize of $50,000 and a brand new car.
Yes, a Jeep. and a $50,000 payday. I've been begging Juliana Malacarni to do this show, but Deb Lashevsky, who's been as high as second at the Miss Olympia, has to be considered one of the favorites going into this, especially since Iris Kyle's not competing. She's retired. And Elena Popa, who was second last year, has a torn biceps. So Deb was third last year, so she's got to be considered one of the favorites, and it'll be interesting to talk to her. I always love interviewing her. She's got great insights into the sport. She's very fun, and I think she gets the whole bodybuilding lifestyle. She's been living it her whole life. And you know what? I would like her insights into what she thinks about women's physique. So it's going to be exciting to talk to her.
So again, 4:30 right here on rxmuscle.com, the new show Live With. And of course, a reminder, next week we start our all-new series of interviews leading up to the Olympia. It's the RX Muscle March to the Olympia. Next week, we have Sadiq Hadzovic. We have the men's physique title holder, Jeremy Buendia. And of course, the aforementioned Juliana Malacarni. Next week, RX Muscles March to the Olympia. Last question from Real Young Kobe Bryant. A good one for you, Dave. When you have the choice to be the coach of one of the Olympia competitors in each class, which one would you pick and why?
That's a good question. In every class, I don't even know if I can even remember them all. Well, I think that, Kai Green has obviously got to be the dream guy. I mean, Phil Heath's already Mr. Olympia. Kai Green is just such an interesting character. I'd have to go with him. In the 212 class, I love Jose Raymond, so that would be my pick in that class. In fitness, I love Oksana Krishina, even though she's the champ. You usually don't want to go with the champ. I'd love to work with her. And I have worked with her in the past, ironically enough. In figure, Nicole Wilkins is the champ. I love Candace Keene, though. Obviously, she's one of my, I guess you could say, favorites in terms of wanting to win. But, LaToya Watts is, to me, the most talented, potentially talented figure competitor in the lineup. So she'd have to be my pick, I guess. Women's physique, Juliana Malacarni is the shit. You got to go with her in that lineup. And then, of course, in the bikini, bikini's tough because there's so many good girls out there. But I like our girl Sarah LeBlanc, our species nutrition athlete, so I'll pick her. And did I say men's physique? Men's physique.
No, you didn't. Yeah.
I have so many friends in men's physique. I don't even know who to pick. So it's tough because. I like Sadiq. He's a good friend of mine. I see him at the gym all the time. I love Jason Poston. We're good friends. So I'd say a tie between Sadiq and Jason Poston.
We'll take one more question. This one from Kira Nakers 5. Hate the show. Dave, do you think athletes are partly responsible for the loss of contracts? They spend more time promoting the brand/company that were paying them rather than try to make extra money selling their own merchandise. They would have been more valued and less expendable.
Well, I think bodybuilders are spoiled because, back in the 90s and the 80s, bodybuilders made a lot of money guest posing and selling their pictures because, remember, there's no internet. People bought autographed 8x10s, and they really didn't have to do anything. They had a magazine contract, they had a supplement contract, and they sat on their ass until the show, and then they competed. They did photo shoots, and that was it. No one else was making money. The women weren't making money. So when the social media world came about, the bodybuilders, most of them didn't do anything. They just kept doing what they were doing. And all the new classes that came out between bikini and figure and women's physique and men's physique, these guys were all social media savvy, and they just took over it. And in today's world, that's how companies market, through social media, online. There's no more magazines. There's no more books. So it's not even, there's no more even appearances. No one even cares if you show up anyplace live anymore because they can see on the internet every single day. So those people got the advantage, and I think that's why companies are going after these people, because they're social media savvy and they have a lot of followers, and the bodybuilders don't. And I think they don't see a value in paying someone $100,000 a year who's going to do nothing social media for them, wise for them.
Let's get to the awards. The best I hate, we're going to give it right away to Big J _97, who had the one about this show sucks so much that I would rather be locked up in a room with Big Ramy inhaling the ungodly smell of his protein farts while he's on a diet with almost non-existent carbs, while at the same time being forced to simultaneously watch a loop video of Steve Bleckman describing Victor Martinez's shredded glutes while being on a Skype call with Officer Farrow, who's forcing me to admit that I'm gay. You win. Email me, sid@speciesnutrition.com. We get now to the best overall question. I'm going to take the two from the Instagram pages, Dave. The first one was from Kira Nakers about athletes being partially responsible for the loss of contracts. That's one. The other one from Real Young Kobe Bryant about who you would work with in each division and why. I think the two strongest ones were on the Muscle Central forum. The first one from the Mr. BSU, and that one was about society and why we're fighting so hard to keep performance-enhancing medicines down, and really giving a strong.
I like that one.
That was a really good one. And then the other one was about from Femme Physique Fan, another very strong question about whether or not RX Muscle could ever team up with a video production company and form sort of that Netflix business model that you alluded to in your rant regarding the future of bodybuilding media. So those are two very strong entries. What say you?
I think it was the one that this third one you mentioned.
Okay. So the Mr. BSU, you email me at sid@speciesnutrition.com, and you're going to get to try our brand, well, I don't say brand new, but our very popular Macadamia Nut Oil. It says it right here, product of South Africa. That's going to do for Askdave. Reminder, in about 12 minutes or so, we are going to be joined by Deb Lashevsky on our brand new show, Live With. And, of course, next week, we're going to be joined by Sadiq Hadzovic, Jeremy Buendia, Juliana Malacarni, amongst a lot of other competitors. And we're going to be lining up Olympian athletes are going to be on rxmuscle.com. You're not going to want to miss it. We will see you in about 10 minutes right here on rxmuscle.com.